Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone out there. It's me, Amir, again, the host and curator of the Future of Islam in the Age of New Media. And welcome. Thank you for watching this. Today we have a special guest. I don't think you've heard of him, but what he does is really unique, and I think it's something that's very important and it's very needed. His name is Mustafa Stefan Dill, and he's the executive director and founder of Ummah Relations, which is a PR firm catering to Muslim communities in the United States. So, Mustafa, hello and welcome.
Oh, welcome. Thank you, Amir. Assalamu alaikum. Good
Walaikum
morning.
salam.
Or evening, as it would be over where you're at,
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
it's 11:50 here, p.m.
It's exactly 14 hours away from where I'm at.
Right.
So
Well, thank you for doing this. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And how did you become a PR expert?
I started in as online journalist for a newspaper up in Santa Fe. At that time, and I had done some radio prior to that. I mean, I'm not professionally trained as a journalist, which I think is a good thing. But as I was doing radio, excuse me, as I was doing radio, I was getting facts. It was in a small little town up in northern New Mexico, a little tiny farming town, and I was working at the radio station, and I would get these absolutely illegible faxes, from farm auctions with nothing spelled right, basic wrong information. And so that's how I learned my basic journalism skills, just by doing basic fact checking and editing and copywriting.
Right.
And then we'd have congressmen come through town. And the Cowboys at this little radio station up there, they didn't want to interview him, but they would always call me. So now he's a senator, Tom Udall from New Mexico. He would call the station and said, "Yeah, I'd like to do some interview." I said, "Okay, well, I'll do it." And so I learned by doing, and from that I moved to Santa Fe and became the online editor of the Santa Fe New Mexican. And that was a great experience. And we were sort of cutting edge back in the day. We were one of the first newspaper websites to actually allow reader comments on
When was
on
this?
stories. This is in Santa Fe, the Santa Fe New Mexican. This is probably going on about 8 to 10 years ago.
Wow.
But we were profiled, me and my boss, we were profiled in the National Journalism Review and some other places for the work that we did. Because we really were inviting readers to the table. At that point.
So you sort of incorporated social media functionalities before social media really came into existence.
Exactly, and actually that's something that I've often talked in some of the promotional materials that I do for my own work, is that I was engaging in social media principles long before Twitter and Facebook ever came back or ever came out, because I understand that good social media, and this gets back into I think what we want to talk about a little later on, but good social media is about understanding user behavior and really trying to meet user needs. And so that was very, very powerful connection. So we were doing it just with whatever tools we had. We were fortunate to have our own web programmer in the day, and so he built us some tools. And at the same time, I began really noticing what was going on in the Muslim community and really looking at what we were doing social media wise, what we were doing press wise. Because when you're working in a newsroom, you kind of understand what newsrooms like and what they want. And I asked myself this question. I thought, if Muslim institutions were so good at their PR and their media efforts, then why is Islamophobia at an all-time high? So clearly for the past 10 years, whatever Muslim institutions have been doing has not been a winning strategy. Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we're at today. I mean, it's not the sole responsibility for it, but there's clearly an aspect that we haven't been very effective.
So check this. So then,
the narrative across.
How do you think the Muslim community right now in America can use social media, utilize social media, everyday normal people, to fight stereotypes, to take a more proactive role, and instead of just being reactionaries and going into panic mode or anger and frustration mode, rather, how can we switch their attitude so that they're proactive and they're more engaged in a positive, healthy way? I am Amir. I am running a Muslim organization in Austin, Texas. Okay. And I feel that my Muslim community is under attack, and I need to do some outreach work to non-Muslims who are sort of misunderstanding who I am and what my community is about. One, how can I get clear on my digital niyyah? And what would you recommend as a PR strategy using social media that I can use and my organization can use and even the community can use?
Okay, that's a good sort of case study. We'll kind of break it down a little bit. And I think it's important, like in this example, if you're starting an organization, I think outreach is the key. One of the problems that I see so much is that Muslim institutions and organizations have been so reactive. And that's part of the problem that we've had, I think, in the past 10 years, is there hasn't been a comprehensive outreach, over the past 10 years. There's an event, and then they issue a press release that say, Islam is a religion of peace. What I call the IROP, Islam is a religion of peace.
That wasn't
it's
enough.
It's the death of us, because, and I'll get into this why. It's not necessarily also a social media strategy, although we can get into that too.
Yeah.
But I think we can't ignore mainstream media. And this gets back into what you're talking about, the victimization. So many Muslims says, oh, we're horribly portrayed by the media. The media portrays us all as terrorists. And my answer to that is, what other alternative have you given them? And that really is the key. They won't know any other kind of Muslim because we don't allow ourselves to get known. So it all comes, it's a two-level process. One, you have to do kind of a grassroots effort at an individual level. You have to encourage people in your masjid, in your congregation, to get out there and be known, whether it's to help, to go out there and meet non-Muslims, help your neighbor, invite them to dinner. So there's a grassroots component as well too. And at an institutional level, if you're dealing with the media, it's like, how many masjids have a relationship with their local media? Probably none.
Wow, that's a very good point.
Go ahead.
As I said, that's a very good point. I mean, I like how you're breaking it down. I think that's the reality in most American, mosques, that they don't have a relationship with the media. Most communities don't do proactive outreach work. And even when they try to do it, I think they can benefit from some skills or some kind of strategy and not just go there and, do things in a clumsy way.
Yeah, I agree. So usually for something like the example that you met, I said, okay, let's work on let's separate them out, because it really is, again, a twofold thing. So if you're talking about like a mainstream media strategy, then you go and call up every news director in your media outlet. Go make the rounds, make the tour. I mean, I've seen this in newsroom when the police department got their new public information officer. Their first day as a new PIO was they just go and visited every station, and they shook the hands of the assignment editor and the news director and just say, hey, I'm the new kid on the block. Here's what I'm doing. Here's my card. Why can't whoever the spokesperson is in the masjid make those appointments, make that tour, and go and meet who the media people are, and be of help to them, and say, hey, if there's any questions that you have, whatever, we're here, we're a resource. The other thing about media that I think is really important to understand is that not only is it about meeting solutions, but it's about value. And everybody needs something. And just as much as Muslims need to tell their story in a positive, more accurate, more representative way, the thing that works in your favor is that newsrooms need stories too. And that's the other thing people often don't think about. So how can you make a newsroom's job easier for them and still make it work for you? So, there's a way to sort of indicate good press releases. Now, newsrooms need a story. They don't want a press release. This is why the IROP release fails, because it just says, we strongly condemn the forthright killing, who cares? If I'm a newsroom director, I can't make a story out of that.
Right.
What needed to happen in
it has to be newsworthy. You've got to come up with something newsworthy, that's exciting, or that's worth talking about.
Well, it doesn't have to be newsworthy, but necessarily, but it has to be compelling. And newsrooms always want, and I've been in when I was at the TV station, we had two news meetings a day, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And they're always looking what they're calling for this connection, for this glue. They always want to personalize a story, and so they don't like to do stories based off a press release. It'll never give you coverage. But if you're the message that said, hey, I have this person who was really affected, this is a compelling story. There's a difference between a story and information. And so if you can personalize it, find people in your congregation who are willing to speak to the media, who have interesting narratives and interesting accounts, and then you can surface them and say, you can call the news director and say, hey, I have somebody who was affected by this. Now that, for instance, like even after I left the newsroom and all of this stuff of Arab Spring happened back in February, March, the TV station still called me and says, do you know anybody who has some connection with it? So that's the kind of questions that newsrooms are looking for. So if you can already be proactive and say, we have this person, you're covering about Egypt, here's a person whose brother lives in Cairo. So you can surface that and surface these accounts and these people and make them available to the media. Then you start developing this nice relationship with the media, and so that when you need them, they're there. When they need you, you be there. So it really is a partnership. They're not the evil monster that a lot of people portray them to be.
Right.
But if you don't give them an alternative, then what are they going to do? And here's another problem that I see in the Muslim community, is that they're very reticent to deal with the media because they have. They're a little distrustful because of the way they portrayed. But if you don't give them an alternative, they're always going to portray it as, the terrorist that makes the news. What other kind of Muslim do they know?
True.
And what is our responsibility to let them know all the other kinds of Muslims that are out there? So we have to do our part to present that alternative narrative, or the larger narrative that's out there. There are millions of Muslims in this country and around the world whose stories aren't being told, and those can be fashioned into newsroom stories that newsrooms would love. So that's the mainstream media component of it.
Okay, so now if you can just give the breakdown for the social media component just very quickly, and how normal everyday individuals can act. Because I love how you did it for the mainstream media and how you talked about institutions and mosques and how each mosque can send out a spokesperson and build relationships with the media. I think this is really excellent advice and very good, clear tips that you laid out there. Just very quickly, before we end the interview, everyday Muslims, what would you advise them? I mean, there's the obvious thing, which is you can start a blog, a Twitter account, a Facebook page, and invite your neighbors, invite your friends. But beyond that, how would you structure that process and make it more impactful?
I think, there's a couple of ways to do it. I think there's a couple of things to keep in mind. And this gets back, this is kind of what I was hinting at when we talked about digital niyyah, is because everybody says, it's so easy to blog. You can say, oh, let's start a blog. That's fine. But who are you really trying to reach? And what are you trying to change and do with the blog or with your view? And part of the problem that I see with the Muslim community, I mean, there's been a lot of interesting social media, efforts, and a lot of, there's some great efforts and people are doing it a lot. But the problem that I run into is that we tend, and this is a problem with the community at large, is that we tend to stay within ourselves. There's kind of this ghetto mentality, not in the bad word, but we tend to sort of be in enclaves. We don't like to reach out or really engage with non-Muslims. And so it's a problem with the Islamosphere. I've instituted a challenge, like every Muslim blogger, take a vacation from, Islamistan. Go, you've got a visa, get out. And I'd make a challenge, like blog about something else that's going on in your community.
Movies,
blog about city council, blog about local issues. Because all we're having these great conversations within the community, but it stays within the community. We all know what the problems are, but we need to be talking to people who are outside the community. And yet there is this reticence. I was on a website that I sometimes write for, and there was this whole discussion in this Muslim website about with young kids on Facebook and say, I'm not going to friend any non-Muslims on Facebook. It's only, and that's completely the wrong thing, because that sort of attitude undermines everything else that people like myself and yourself are trying to do. It's like, you have to reach out, make a friend with a non-Muslim, engage with them, talk with them, because that's how you're going to get known. So at the very grassroots level, you have to figure out, it's great to talk about Muslim issues, but I challenge everybody who's starting a social media project. It's like, don't invite your Muslim friends to your pet project. Go and find non-Muslim people that need to be known, that need to know about what you stand and what you're saying. If it stays within the sphere, then it just kind of it's sort of incestuous and dies, and it doesn't make any impact. The real impact is to get it to the people who most need to hear it.
Or to put it bluntly, don't complain and whine, and don't preach to the choir.
Exactly. But you can complain and whine if you're offering a solution.
Exactly.
But really,
if you're
preaching
offering
to
a
the choir
solution.
is the problem. I mean, like I said, we all know what the issue is. Like this needs to be surfaced to everybody else. And the only way you can do that, I think, is really by being known.
You know what? I think we can
and
go on
making
and
those
on, and
connections.
we can talk about more details, like how do you take an issue, reframe it, and give the story a whole new angle, and give it a positive spin. I mean, we can get into all these things, and you know what?
Oh,
This
sure.
is really starting to get juicy, but I do think we have to make it short. However, it doesn't mean that we can't do part two of this, and I think
Oh,
part two.
I would love to. I would love to. I think just I know you're trying to wrap this up, but yeah, how you break it down is my thing. Is be specific. Any kind of media outreach you're doing, whether it's the mainstream media or your blog or your social media, keep in mind what your target is. Keep in mind who you're trying to reach, and make it easy for them, and make it useful for them. If people are going to media and looking for solutions, then what solution are you offering? It's what we talked about earlier. So make it specific, make it personal. Everybody wants a story. They don't want information. They want a story. Make it real. Be yourself. And also don't appoint yourself to represent all of Islam. It's your story. It's your view. It's your take.
Right.
So make it you. Be real, be honest, and meet everybody else. I mean, that's in a nutshell. I think we can leave it there for part one, and then we can do this again some other time. I would love to do it.
But hey, Mustafa.
Yeah.
Brilliant. No, seriously, this was really great. And for everyone out there who's watching and listening to this, if you're an American Muslim, if you're in some community somewhere in the United States, you go to a mosque and your mosque does not have a spokesperson, or you feel that you guys are under attack and you want to change perceptions, or if you're in an institution or organization, whatever. Go out there and find more information about Ummah relations. Because Mustafa, I think you should be working with more people and really helping them and empowering them with your knowledge, with your skills and strategies. Because this is needed.
I would love to. I mean, I'm kind of I'm my own worst enemy in a certain sense, like I said. So, but yeah, I mean that is what I'm here to do, and I believe in our community, and I want to see us succeed. I want to see us thrive. And I think it's an exciting time,
it's
a challenging time.
Exactly, it's a challenging time, but it also presents a lot of opportunities. And the thing is, you cannot proceed to solve a problem unless you first identified it and acknowledged it. And the problem isn't that we're under attack and everyone hates us and we're the evil enemy. Like, that's not really the core issue. The issue is that we're being misunderstood and we're being misrepresented, and there can be something done about this. Like, that's the problem that you identify, you acknowledge, and then from there you proceed to figuring out how to fix it. So thank you for the tips. Thank you for everything that you shared. And you know what? It looks like we'll be doing a part two, I think.
Cool.
And I think there should be room for it. But we'll just go along with the flow and we'll see how it goes. And again, thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was an honor and a pleasure, and hope to be doing this again with you. It would be great.